is a diversity of offer and tools to have access to financing. Our friend has arrived, Minister. So you have studied these issues as a PhD student. So I was saying before you came, I have to leave in 10 minutes because of for various reasons, but it has nothing to do with elections. So if that's okay with you, I'm going to let the minister do his presentation. Minister, if you allow me, I'd like to finish. So I was talking about the competition that I think is quite healthy between traditional fintech and fintech using crypto, because it allows African SMEs to have a choice in terms of access to financing. So you mentioned some risk or difficulties with ICOs. What we would like to see is that SMEs should have the choice with different conditions that are given to them between traditional fintechs and fintechs using cryptos. I'm going to give you the floor in a second, but I had a question. I wanted to ask you that question. You talked about Mona Lisa, Gioconda by Da Vinci, and I thought that the market of NFTs, the non-fungible tokens linked to art, I thought that this market, after being developed a lot, is going through some difficult times now. Is it true or not? Not true. Not true, because yes, it's true. There was a bubble in early 2022. The NFT bubbles bursted, and there's a very clear reason to this. It's because people were buying images, JPEGs, PMGs of a monkey, of a car, of a Mona Lisa, and then this was backed by nothing. There was nothing that could support the value of this object. So you were investing in an image, and it was just that, an image. Now, this novelty with the real world assets, so the tokenization of real assets, tangible assets or financial assets, like I said, we tokenize real diamonds. So you can buy through the blockchain a diamond. You can be the owner of a diamond without having to move that tangible asset. So I can sell you the ownership certificate, which is an NFT, the tokenized asset, and send it to you without having to send you to Paris, to Africa, or to America, the real asset, the object. Now, if you want to offer it to your wife or whomever, you can always claim or redeem the asset that will be shipped to you. And I think that this is a huge game changer in the NFT world. The tokenization of financial and tangible real assets is a game changer, and this market is going to reach $16 trillion in 2030. Thank you for the question. I'm going to ask you the question. Mr. Diatara, you Minister of Digital Economy and Telecommunication between 2020 and 2022. Am I right? Yes, you're right. No, the program is wrong. Okay. So I have to leave in about 10 minutes, not because of what you will say, but because I have to leave. So will you accept to be the moderator, because I promised the audience to give them the floor, because you have until 1 o'clock. So maybe after your introduction, you could be the moderator. You will take over after me, but I will listen to you for about 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Yes, I take the floor because I had the opportunity to work on these topics, how the crypto asset reinvent the funding of the private sector. It was also my thesis on this topic. I also implement a part of this thesis in practical use cases in terms of funding through the digital active in the economy, in the companies, in the SMEs that we support a bit of everywhere. So to come back on this topic, can you please explain what you are doing now, today? So my job, it's in finance. I'm a finance expert. You weren't a minister. I was a counselor, a consultant for the cross-Montana Foreign. You know, it's the same minister, advisor, it's the same. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to share with you this topic. It is very interesting. It is raising a lot of interest. And it is a must today. You have to work on this to be involved, but it's not very disruptive. It is a solution that will facilitate access to funding for funding the economy. We shouldn't limit just to Bitcoin, but see it as an asset that will bring more dynamism to the funding. Let's take a practical case. We had a founding in Côte d'Ivoire in agriculture, a cooperative producing EVA. They were looking for funding. So what did we do? We estimated the volume of the production. We issued a token representing the volume of the product, and then investor could finance this operation very clearly. Because in this economic model, we have the first and the primary and secondary market, so the investor could use their token on the market with a true value. And in France, we do the same because we are based in France. We finance some companies in the SMEs by tokenizing. So you can totally tokenize the service of today and tomorrow, depending on the mounting. And the process is in 3 steps. First, you need a legal framework. So unlike what some people could think that crypto world is unregulated. So when you are looking at the regulation of MiCA, what does it regulate? Well, it regulates currency and the tokens. But everything related to shares, bonds, social parts, all of these are tokenized, and it is already into this existing framework. And we hope that the MiFID will also take it into account. Maybe it is the case for the NFTs, but I think we will soon have a law around the intellectual property. But I think that if we are looking at the crypto asset on the economical world, we have to get involved. So first question, what is the legal nature of my token? If my token is a currency, then it belongs to the currency regulation. If it's a stable currency, it belongs to the law about member states. The law is here. It has been here for a long time. And when the token represents an asset, a service, it belongs to the MiCA framework for the utilitarian token. And I think that now you have the legal framework. And once you have it, you can go to the second step. It is a tokenization, tokenomics. It's a bit like the business plan. It is the value of your token. So you have to manage the supply, the volume, etc. So yeah, it's a work that you can compare when you are establishing a founding plan. It's the tokenomics. Once you're done, you're more on the technical aspect that Stéphane mentioned, tokenization. It's just one click. It's really the more technical aspect. These are the 3 elements you have to keep in mind. Legal framework, then you have to think about the currency, how you will manage the supply, and that's it. Then you process, like the professor just said, on a primary market. And when we talk about ICO, for us, ICO is the primary market of the first issuing of this token. Once the token go through this primary market, they will be quoted on a secondary market. And then we have a regulation and framework where we can list the tokens on this secondary market. Of course, the value of this token is not necessarily speculative. It will depend on their economic use. So yeah, you have to get involved. I think that for the people who are a bit scared about this economy, you have to ask yourself this question. Is your token addressing an economic question beyond the technical one? And if so, then go. It will create demand, and when we talk about founding the market, it is the demand and offer law that will influence the price of your assets on the secondary market. And the exchange belong to the same principles of this law. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that you should come back all together with our friends, maybe. Maybe, Sonia, you talked about the European regulation. About this question of platform regulation, where currencies and tokens are exchanged, Europe is in advance. We are talking about a regulation and not a directive. It is a direct application. It will be implemented at the end of this year, 2024. It will regulate not everything, not the NFTs. There is a special aspect on a stable coin, but at the national level, we still have a lot of power, but we have a little issue for those who are concerned by or interested by European affairs. If I understand well, once we'll be within a European framework for crypto, it will work for everything. It is like the European passport. I was a regulator, a financial regulator for France, and by the time, within the 27 countries of European Union, some of them are a bit less demanding in terms of regulation than others. Don't want to quote them, but I guess you've guessed which one we are talking about. The south and east. To be clear, in the past we had problems with Cyprus, with Malta. So a crypto platform habilitated by MiCA in Cyprus, they will work in France and in any other country without any more certification. And I think that maybe we should evaluate this system. When we have this type of regulation, it is important to see the consequences and the effects. It seems obvious to me. Second topic for you, and then I will unfortunately leave you, but we'll also have to give the floor to the public. Let's say I buy a token on this primary market with physical assets. If a company is funding itself with tokens, the problem of cash, the cash aspect of this asset, of this token, is a problem. In the secondary market, I will buy token, I will sell them within 3 months. There is an uncertainty about the possibility that you can buy it and at what price. I was very happy to be with you, but I'm so sorry. I have not a cash problem, but a time problem. So be well. Take care.
Je voulais rajouter, merci en tout cas.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to add a few things about Africa. So, Africa, you mentioned it at the beginning, Sonia. I think that to bring out more Africans in the crypto world, to make it more accessible, is through education. And I think that a lot of efforts are made in Africa. For example, University of Cape Town provides a master in blockchain, digital asset, etc. In Kenya, also, there is a masterclass about data scientists with classes about crypto, blockchain, digital assets. And a lot of efforts are also implemented today. For example, Bitcoin mining. For those who know it, it is a proof of work. You have to make process and computers work to create Bitcoin. It is very demanding in terms of energy. It was done a lot in China since 2019. It was banished, and it is reviving in Africa. One of the countries that is main concern is Ethiopia. Why? Because one main reason is that energy is one of the cheapest in the world in Ethiopia. So when you are mining Bitcoin and using a lot of energy with a lesser cost is a huge advantage. And they are very strong in hydro energy, using water to create electricity. Now we have different countries, for example, Nigeria. The cost to buy process is very expensive. So what they do is, for everyone who has a smartphone, a mobile phone, they can download an app, a decentralized app, to rent to Bitcoin miners in other countries parts and shares of their business. So through your phone, you can mine Bitcoin. What does it mean? It means that you get money, you can own Bitcoin and make money or invest in Bitcoin. Two last point about Africa, because there are so many great initiatives in Africa. iCapital, I don't know if you know it. It is a new payment system, payment facilitator in 9 different countries in Africa. It allows you with local currency to have access to Bitcoin, which was not the case before. The problem was you either needed a dollar and to invest in your local currency, and then with the exchange rate you were losing money. But today it is totally feasible and accessible to everyone. About the question of education, I agree with you, and I think that we would also need to educate regulators. We'd be pretty surprised to say that the decision maker do not have access to all this knowledge or more technical aspect of this knowledge. Sometimes they can have bias. So that's why I'm very happy to have a platform such as this one. It is a way to have a soft education, despite reluctances that some could have. But when you participate to this kind of discussion, of panels, it is a way to educate people. That's why I really want to invite everyone who can in September in Abidjan. We will have the first Abidjan Blockchain Week. And the idea, I heard that the countries that were mentioned, even these African countries that are very advanced in this topic, very little are French-speaking countries. And at the Chamber of Commerce, what you try to do is to encourage this knowledge transfer between the regions for those who have a more mature adoption and transfer this sharing with the different regions. That's why we do it in Abidjan, in Côte d'Ivoire. The idea is also to have this event in different African capitals, French-speaking capitals, to softly educate about Bitcoin, about cryptocurrency, but also on a global scale about blockchain and all these use cases. I just want you to open up the debate. It is a really fascinating topic. We could talk for hours, for days, for nights. My name is Chawan Kartouti. I am the president of IMRI, the Moroccan Institute of International Relationship, and of course I was very interested first to get educated about this new funding system that are very important. My question to Sonia, you say that you could help, and it is a problem that we have in Morocco, you could help for the funding of SMEs. what I would like to know on a practical aspect, how does it work? Are there credits? Are there investments? What are we talking about? How does the beneficiary will pay back? These are my questions. Thank you very much for your question. So at the Chamber of Commerce, we have this journey to access of funding, because what we saw and what the difficulties we observed in this perspective of access of funding for the SMEs is that most of the time the problem of the maturity of the project that are presented to the founders, sometimes they are very classical or private sector. So the maturity of the product and also the presentation. So during this journey of access to funding, we integrate the technical support. So we realize an assessment of the maturity of the product to see if it is ready to be presented to founders. We also work with the whole portfolio of the founders, so we know the criterias. And then once we have assessed the maturity, we can see what is missing. And then we bring counseling and advice. So it is really a cohesive support. And once these projects are mature enough, because it is really something that we want for our project managers, is to inverse the situation. We want them. We talked about this posture of beggars. We don't want for them to be beggars, but to be a project manager with a choice. That's why crypto for us is a new opportunity to have access to funding. It is one of the questions we will mention in Abidjan in September, how crypto can also be an opportunity to have access to funding. And so we don't just help the project, we want to solve a problem that we often see in the majority of the project we see is the presentation of the project. Projects that are mature enough to be presented to investors to have access to investment. Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Hello, my name is Achille AGBE. I'm a student at the ULB. I have a question to clarify a very basic topic. Mr. Moderator, he showed a 10 euros banknote. What is the difference between this banknote, the one I have on my app, and the future digital currency that will be adopted, for example, in Europe in 2026? And what are the different characteristics? What are the differences? What are the difference with the crypto assets? And if it is the same, maybe the difference is in the blockchain. And the purpose of the states, as was mentioned, is to take over the control, but the blockchain is, by its definition, a lot less controllable. I will try to answer because you are talking about the legal frameworks and regulations. So it is true for the general public. We have the feeling that these currencies are not the same. We shouldn't forget that Bitcoin is not legally accepted. It is not a legal tender like euros, for example. Currency is an instrument for sovereign states. It goes beyond the simple use in exchanges. So I'm talking about the monetary law of each country. In each country, we establish the legal tender. Euros, dollars, they are legal tender, which is not the case for Bitcoin and all other cryptos. First difference. However, you say that the way of expression of currency. Currency is fiduciary. It can express itself in a more digital way. It is a virtual currency, but that is related to euro. When you go a bit further within the regulation, when you, for example, for MiCA, we had this void around crypto assets and a stable cryptocurrency, for example, USDT, US dollar, digital US dollar, and MiCA is filling this gap. Stable currencies can represent a threat to the stability of the whole funding system. So we really had to work on this topic, and this is what has been solved by MiCA. So for all the people who have stable cryptocurrency now have to go through a double regulation, the MiCA, and then about the previous legislation. So we are getting back to the virtual currency like PayPal. So it is between the borders of this regulation. And for all different type of crypto money, you have to be careful because you always have to ask yourself, what is the use of this cryptocurrency that I have? When you talk about crypto asset, cryptocurrency, it's very elusive. When you talk as a specialist, you have to ask yourself, what is the use of this cryptocurrency? If it is stable for a payment, then you have this type of regulation or legislation. If it is a currency, like Stefan said, for example, for diamond, and we tokenize the diamond, for me, when I hear that, it becomes an instrument because it has market value. So it will belong to the securities regulation, maybe. So that will be my answer. I just wanted to add something. There is a strong difference between Bitcoin and your 10 euros banknote. We saw during COVID, it started in 2020, and I think that the American bank has never printed that much banknotes during these 2 years. And the difference with Bitcoin when it was created in the white paper, which is the genesis of Bitcoin, explaining what is the use of this currency, it was established that there will always be 21 million Bitcoins mined. So we will never go beyond this figure. It is a big difference. Today we have reached 19 million, so we will reach this limit. Are there any more questions in the audience? Hello, my name is Mariam Dasser. I am a student at the university in Rabat. And I have a question. What are the legal challenges for the recognition of cryptocurrencies as a legal currency in the different countries? And what will be the consequences on the adoption and use of cryptocurrencies at the global scale? And will Bitcoin have some advantages regarding different crypto? Another question about regulation and legal framework. Thank you, good question. There were an event that happened within this crypto asset economy. 2 countries recognized within their constitution. So yeah, Bitcoin has been existing since 28. But until now, in any constitution, it was mentioned that it was a legal tender currency. So once again, the legal currency is the one established within the constitution. It is a legal inscription that provides legitimacy to the currency. So it can circulate, but if in the law it is not mentioned that this currency is a legal tender, it is not legal. And unfortunately or not, depending on your point of view, we had 2 countries, El Salvador and the Central African Republic, that recognized within the constitution that Bitcoin, that is already circulating within the territory, is now a legal currency. And it is a big change because we are all a bit surprised. It is a case law. everyone reacted, a whole panic, because it is a new door that has been opened. So we can say that Bitcoin is a legal currency, legal tender in South Africa and Salvador. But it's not the case here in Belgium, in France, in Morocco, or anywhere, or maybe. It is circulating, and Bitcoin is validating its economic potential. And maybe within 2 years, 3 years, some countries could follow their example. So here you can see the more legal subtleties around this type of currency, and you have to be very careful. Maybe you wanted to add something? No? So if a country will provide a legal tender to a cryptocurrency, can Bitcoin have an advantage regarding other cryptocurrency? So it's a good question, but it's a bit not that clear because we are in Europe. In Europe, there is a regulation, existing regulation, MiCAR. It was implemented in June. So yeah, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we didn't yet have a regulation, a European regulation about this question, and today we do. So you see that your question about the illegal aspect of Bitcoin, you have to really rethink it. It is now legal, regulated for stablecoin, for the token, utilitarian token, and for different type of crypto, but not for NFT, but maybe it will. So within the legal framework, only the NFT are not yet regulated. The whole world really get inspired by the MiCA, and I think that the United States are inspired, also China are inspired by MiCA, and maybe different countries will. I think that it is the more advanced, more complete regulation. So maybe within an international transaction, if you have a transaction of a crypto asset for the payment of an invoice, within your invoice for the payment of something you are buying, maybe in China, within the contract you can precise that you want to localize it in Belgium, because in future, if you have a problem, the big car regulation could be applied to this contract. That's how you use this competitive advantage of MiCA in your future transaction with non-European stakeholders. Because crypto asset is a transnational currency. So if a country does not want to regulate about cryptocurrency, it's their opinion. But this innovation is very powerful, because if in Nigeria, in Morocco, Tunisia, people do not want to regulate around this currency, it's their business. It won't prevent the Tunisian population, Moroccan population, whatever, to use this currency. We saw it in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we saw that the population with a strong diaspora around the world adopted crypto assets, especially stable currency for transactions. And the government saw the threat, they forbid this system, but it didn't change anything to the life of the people in Nigeria. So the government say, okay, I don't need to forbid anything because it's not working. If you forbid, you have to implement repression mechanisms. But the government cannot look and check the wallet of every person in Nigeria and to close it. It's not impossible. It's impossible, sorry. Since the government cannot shut down all cryptocurrency wallet of this population, they were obliged to take over this law by providing a new framework, a reflection of regulation. So for me, it is started. We won't go back. We have very efficient templates like in Europe. We should take inspiration from it.
Des questions?
Are there any further questions? We still have 15 minutes. More questions?
Bonjour, Ange Maïndou, je suis compliance officer à la société.
I'm complaints officer in the La Société Générale Bank in Paris. I would like to get your views. Since 2022, TracFin is producing reports, and we see a lot of progression in terms of money laundering, terrorism through crypto assets. So since you are promoting this use of crypto assets, so isn't there an issue with security with those crypto assets? Because for the European banking sector, which is very well regulated, we can see that banks, including the finance intelligence centers, have a hard time coping with that. So those funding terrorism use that. So they use less and less traditional methods, and they use more and more these new methods that offers a lot more opportunities. So isn't there a security challenge there? And at the same time, I would like to ask a question to the lady who's talking about Africa, where there should be a lot of progress. The train is already going, but there are many structural challenges in terms of regulations, especially for issues of money laundering and terrorism financing. So are there enough regulations? Wouldn't that be a risk of more financing of terrorism or money laundering? So within LCX, or Liechtenstein Crypto Asset Exchange, we work closely with the FMN. So we have a compliance suite which goes through the different anti-money laundering systems, through KYC systems, where as soon as there is a transaction above a certain threshold, there is a warning that is triggered, and then we have to mention all the information. So I think that maybe there were a lot of abuses in the past, and I think that now this is reducing, because all the efforts that were made through the regular exchanges. I'm not talking about the funding with CZ, and he is in Miami in prison serving his time. So, for example, they let a lot of money from terrorism, which has helped Hamas in the war with Israel now. And we know that many Hamas accounts have been terminated. And I think that's a good thing. But I think that there are many initiatives now that are going in this direction. So somehow we are working hand in hand with governments. On the other hand, in our office, we have a compliance department. It is necessary. The IMF is asking us to have that in exchanges, and we have 7 or 8 people working on that exclusively. What I was proposing before for the African countries is to have a strategic approach. The moderator before talked about Donald Trump. And he said if he comes back to power, he's going to ban cryptocurrencies. But one of the first countries in the world, I think it's number 1, India. Number 2, it's one country from Southeast Asia. But the third country is the US. But in fact, what I want to say is that we should not give in to the fear that would prevent us from looking at something that seems to become a reality. So the idea is not to open the door and say, okay, let's open the doors wide without regulating. But it's at least we need to get educated, to have some African knowledge about this. African expertise. And what is very important in this also is that we need to give some context to these technologies in the background. When we're talking about the use of blockchains and the margins of bitcoins, there are some case uses in Africa or opportunities in Africa that would not in Europe. So we have to welcome this. We need to educate ourselves to see how we can adapt them, regulate them based on our realities. But rather than closing our eyes, saying, no, we don't do this, and by the time we open our eyes, we're already behind. So I think that Africa can have a role to play there, especially for mobile money, because some African countries are way ahead compared to European countries. So like I said, it is an opportunity, it's a young opportunity, and we have the opportunity to apprehend it, to adapt it if we can master it. So one last word before the next question. So on the issue of money laundering, this is a recurring question. And you mentioned this with practical cases that you see, but I think that the MiCA regulation can solve a large majority of the issues, because in the cryptocurrencies, there is the notion of the custodial and the conservation. So with FCX, it's something. The platforms hosting the crypto asset portfolios should be strictly regulated, and that's the case with the MiCA regulation. So what does it say, this regulation? It tells these platforms to keep the KYC up to date for their customers. This way we know who's behind an operation. So when a platform does not comply with this obligation, then it could lose the agreement or the authorization that it got. Same thing for the cryptos that are hosted by the hardwired. So these are portfolios that not connected to the exchange. So you put your crypto assets to a digital portfolio. So for those creating hard wallet portfolios, they have to follow the same regulation. Of course, there must be some regular checks and controls to make sure that the accounts are really up to date. So there can be a framework. We need to raise the awareness, but the case law authorities have to do some regular checks and controls. But I think that the issue of money laundering is a fight for everyone, not just for the crypto assets, even in the traditional sphere. So we have some rogue players who want to go through the net, but the response of the authorities is the KYC, the regular checks and controls that the authorities can carry out, and then it's awareness raising to detect some cases of money laundering that may not be detected. We're going to take a question before last.
We'll have the final question and then we'll go for the lunch break. Thank you.
Okay. Two questions. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Faraz. I am the Minister and Deputy Ambassador of the Embassy of Pakistan in Brussels. And my question to the panel is regarding the possibility of tokenization of national assets by governments, whether it is possible and what would be the steps if a national government were to tokenize its airports, its infrastructure projects. It could be an innovative way of bringing investment into countries, especially the ones which are highly indebted to international financial institutions. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the question. I will answer in English, maybe for you. Just to let you know, I am, and I will let my colleagues answer, on the more details, expertise aspect of the question. But just wanted to confirm this is something that we've received also at the EU-Africa Chamber of Commerce as a request from countries, from African countries, some of them, as an opportunity also for them to diversify their access to finance as well. There is a tendency in Africa to sort of reduce, at least for some of the partners we were talking to reduce the dependency on certain ways of access to finance, even for the countries and the states. So this is something that we are also considering and reflecting on, because in Africa, maybe like in your country, there are some assets that can be also tokenized. So just wanted to confirm that this is on